Today I'm going to talk about relocating and moving. More specifically, relocating up here in New England down to Florida. But most of the information in this video will be applicable to all moves. And what I did is I called UHAUL, I called PODS, and I called a van line. And, I got some numbers, I got some quotes. So, later on in the video, we're going to do a comparison and we're going to take a look at what those numbers look like. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Paul Graham. I'm a real estate agent. I'm licensed in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and in Florida. And I'm very passionate about relocations down to Florida. Something that I've contemplated and I've researched in great detail, for myself on multiple occasions. So, I can't wait to get started and dive into it. So because of my interest in relocating, I was looking through the courses last year with my brokerage, eXp Realty, and I came across a relocation certification course. So I ended up signing up for that, and it was nothing crazy. It was like, once a week for maybe a month, and at the end of the day, I became relocation certified, and they even gave me this amazing, great certificate, relocation certified. So, eXp Realty, but, enough about that. What was different about that course, it wasn't totally what I expected. It was a lot about corporate relocations and all the little nuances and paperwork and different things that go along with corporate relocation. So, I'm more than happy to help with the corporate relocations. But for this video, I just want to dive into just, in general, relocating and moving. I know multiple people that have moved down to Florida from up here, most of which have stayed down there, some of which have come back home, so to speak. But I've always been very interested in that and having those conversations with people because it's something that I've contemplated for many, many years, ever since I first visited Florida. I fell in love with Florida back then. And aside from the people that I know, I'd love to just start the conversations with people down there when I'm visiting on vacation. Whether it's Florida natives or, if you're at the theme park, sometimes their little name badge will say, that they're from this area, and I'd love to start that conversation, just kind of ask them, hey, how do you like it down here? I've thought about moving myself, and I'd ask them all the questions and different things, and, over 20 years of just vacationing down there and going down there and talking to people, I've accumulated quite a bit of different opinions and different knowledge on, different people's experiences down there. My original plan for this video was to just kind of do like a big Zoom call, and I wanted to just get a bunch of people on it so I could just ask them a bunch of questions and different things like that. But just with people's schedules and different things like that, it was just tough to get everybody together at the same time. And then some people that did want to answer the questions, some of them didn't want to be on a YouTube video. So I just kind of got everybody's answers. I talked to different people, plus all the people I've talked to over the years, and just kind of came up with some of these lists of pros and cons that I'll get into. And no surprise here, but one of the main things that comes up when you talk to people is the weather. You got the warm weather most of the year, you got the beaches, you got the theme parks. There's just a little bit for everybody. You got the nightlife, you can relax. There's just so many different things that you could do down here. I actually made a whole video, my own personal things that I've seen over the 20 years, why Florida video. And that's like almost an hour long, and I could have kept making that on and on and on. But if you want to catch any of that, I'll try to throw the link up on the screen or I'll put it in the description below. But you can watch that. It's got different chapters, so you don't have to sit there for an hour and watch it, but you can see the different aspects of Florida that I fell in love with. And this list I'm about to give you, this is just the people that I've encountered, and that's just, never mind, just everyone in general that's come to Florida and their reasons. So there's a lot to it. Let's get into it. Overall pros, like we just talked about, you got the warm weather most of the year, you got all the beaches, and you got the East Coast beaches and you got the West Coast beaches. So, for most people, where you live in Florida, it's a reasonable drive to get to the beach, and then if you relocate, you don't got to worry about shoveling snow anymore, the potholes, and then they got, cool stuff with the real estate, like they have the Homestead Exemption Act. So if you do move down there, make sure you fill out the proper paperwork. There's certain deadlines and different things like that. But, you don't have to pay as much real estate taxes. The first $50,000 on your home, you can get $25,000 off that exempt. And then there's, some where you have to pay taxes, a chunk of your home. But then, overall, you can get up to $50,000, off your home as far as what you're paying taxes on. So, that's a big breakdown there and a big draw as far as, buying the real estate down there. Then they have the no state income tax, coming out of your paycheck every week. So that's great. At the end of the year, you don't have to pay, state income taxes. And then you get the Florida pricing, on the theme parks and different things like that. And one thing I thought was interesting, because this came from a Florida native, lived to Florida their whole life, and they describe Florida as, it's like being on vacation all the time. You might think about somebody that thinks of Florida's vacation and, travels down there, that would be their mindset. But this came from somebody that they've lived there the whole life, and they realize, like, the mini paradise that they're living in, that it's almost like you're on vacation all the time. And some of the biggest cons, as you can probably imagine, hurricane season. That's probably the biggest con that I've heard over the years. People are just, besides the devastation and tragedy, loss of life. I mean, unfortunately, like, that can happen, so that's in your mind. But, even the little parts that come with the hurricane, like, the hurricane's coming, so you gotta take your stuff from the outside, you gotta put it on the inside, you gotta secure it, and then you gotta, clean your yard up from the debris and different things like that, after the storm comes through. It can get very hot and humid. And yeah, you don't have to shovel the snow, but you gotta cut your grass 52 weeks a year. So, you gotta weigh the options there, because, you don't have one, but you gotta deal with the other one. And then you get the snowbirds that like to go down there, during the cold months, up here. So that just leads to some overcrowding, on the golf courses, the theme parks, the roads, the traffic, because you get a lot of people coming in, a lot of tourists, so it makes a lot of those things a lot more difficult to navigate to. One other con that I've heard a few times too is that it's just slower paced down there. So if you're like in a fast pace, you like that environment, Florida, in a lot of areas, just people are on a slower pace, take it down a notch kind of thing. So that's something that people have pointed out that they don't like as much in Florida as, up here. It's just quick, fast paced with different things like that. Whether it's fast food or whatever it is. So, and I'm not saying all Florida's, slow paced. It's just that's some of the feedback that I've gotten from different people that actually live down there and have moved from up here. And one great response that I got was from my wife's uncle. So I'm just going to read you what he wrote. He just wrote, "I decided to move to Florida in 1990 after a couple of miserable winters, being constantly sick and struggling to keep up with the school, the college that he was going to. I had some relatives in Florida, and he recalled that he enjoyed it when he went down there to visit them. So he figured he'd look into it with one of his buddies who actually felt the same way, wanted to move to Florida. So they were all set to do it, but then his buddy's parents, they pulled the plug on the deal, so he ended up going solo. And he just writes, I felt that if I tried something new, I could always come back home if needed. That it would be worth trying. Nowadays, I would advise people to come down and look around. It's a lot different in northern, central, and south Florida. So, different areas, northern, central, south, each one's got a little different feel to it, little different things going on. Plus, it's busier on the East Coast and more relaxed on the West Coast, is what he says. I've been here a long while now. I love everyone at home. It would not change my childhood and upbringing for anything. I enjoy coming home, but I wouldn't move back. It did not take long getting comfortable at all during his move. He put, it's not like the towns back home where they are so close-knit, but there are gives and takes, I suppose. Home for me will always be, in his hometown that he writes, which is in Massachusetts. He still roots for all the Boston sports teams. He does live in Tampa, and he's lived in Tampa for 30 years now. Over 30 years. He said if I could do it again, with my adult wisdom, I would have looked at more places in the country and in Florida to make sure I made the best choice. But I'm very happy where I landed. My advice would be to do research online, since now it has everything. Speak with friends and friends of friends that are here. And most importantly, come visit and see Florida for yourself. So I thought that was really cool. Just want to kind of read it in his words, what he wrote. Because I reached out to different people, trying to make this video. Like I said, I was originally going to do a Zoom call, but that just kind of fell through. Most people probably understand the moving process, but I just want to touch base on some different options that you might have, and just go over some certain tips and some things to keep in mind as you're going through the process. First, you want to declutter your home. You want to go through everything. You want to go one room at a time and literally just question every little thing. And if you don't need it, think about selling it, on Facebook Marketplace or something like that. And if you don't have time to sell it, or it's just too much stuff and you're just trying to go quicker, donate the stuff, So just go room by room, go through everything, start getting boxes for donations, or start posting stuff to sell it online, whatever you want to do to get rid of the stuff, and just declutter your whole house. Especially if you have kids, now's a great time to just go through, and get rid of all those toys they don't need, because every little thing is going to add up once you start packing up these boxes and different things. Start researching your moving options. And probably the first thing that almost everybody thinks of when they think of moving is they think about a U-Haul truck. But there's certain things you want to keep in mind with the U-Haul truck. You got to think about the gas you're going to spend. Especially if you're going from Massachusetts down to Florida, then you're going to have to stop. Lodging, different things like that. You're going to be driving this big 26-foot or whatever size truck that you get, this big box truck, all that way. Then you got to figure out where to park it when you go into, the gas stations, or, you want to stop for food. It's not as easy as just pulling your car into a McDonald's drive-thru. So little things like that you want to think about with the U-Haul truck. So let's compare prices on the different options, and as I promised, I looked into 3 different options. I checked out U-Haul. I got a quote for them. I called PODS. I got a quote for them. And I called a van line company, and I got a quote for them. And with all 3 options, I used the same scenario. Now, moving from Massachusetts down to Orlando, Florida. I picked August 1st, so it would be in the summertime, a few months from now. And, I used a, relatively average-sized home, 1,500 square feet, 3 bedrooms. I also put that I'm bringing all the appliances just to incorporate that fee in case I want to bring all the appliances. So washer, dryer, refrigerator, stove, just some tools. I added a few extra things, but nothing crazy. Like a moderate amount of furniture is what I use in all the quotes. So here's what I got for numbers. All right, so let's start with U-Haul. So U-Haul, I chose a 26-foot box truck, which that's what they recommended for 3 to 4 bedrooms. And I chose one way from Massachusetts to Orlando, Florida. And when the rate came back, it included 5 days and 1,509 miles. The quote was $4,548 plus $286 in taxes, which brought it close to $5,000. And this didn't include any boxes, any wheel dollies, blankets, none of the supplies. I could have added on movers. It gives you an option where different vendors come up, and they started off at $80 an hour to $160 an hour was the average. Most of them were in that range. There was only one that was $80. Most of them were like $125 to $160 range. And then one thing you could add on is towing your vehicle. And your vehicle, I threw in my minivan that we have for the family car, and it came up to $292, and that's what it additionally would have been if you wanted to tow your vehicle, down to Florida. And then you have PODS. And PODS is just a company that's going to rent you a container. They're going to transport it to your home, an empty container. They're going to put it in your yard, wherever you'd like it. And then you, on your own time, you're just going to pack it up, load it up, and when it's getting close, you call them up. You set up a time for them to pick it up, and they're going to come pick it up, and they're going to deliver it to your new home location for you. So what's nice about that is you can do it on your own time, but you also got to keep in mind is that you only have a 30-day window. So from the day that they drop it off to the day that they pick up the empty one at the new home, you only have a 30-day window, or they're going to charge you additional fees. Another good thing with them is, let's say you're filling it up and you feel like you need another one, you can rent out, they can bring you a second container to go along with that first one. All right, so let's talk some numbers with PODS. So I called and I got estimates, just so you can have a ballpark with PODS. And like I said, I use the same information: 3-bedroom, 1,500 square feet, moderate amount of furniture. I'm bringing the appliances. So they recommended a 16-foot pod, which is their largest size. It's 8 by 8 by 16. They say it fits 3 to 4 rooms. So not 3 to 4 bedrooms, 3 to 4 rooms, for about 1,200 square feet. And then in the scenario that I mentioned, because I have 1,500 square feet that I use in a scenario, they suggested to possibly add a second 7-foot pod, which could fit an approximate 500 square feet additionally. And with pods, as I just mentioned, you only have that 30-day window to load it, have them ship it, unload it. But some important things to notate with that is that, their shipping time is 7 to 9 days. So you got to take that into account in the 30 days. It's going to take them 7 to 9 days. And what happens is, like where I live, they said that what would happen is the Boston facility would come pick up my pod, and then, they would either bring it back to Boston until they were ready to ship it. Is probably what they would do. And then when they ship it, they're going to send it from the Boston facility to the Orlando facility. And then after that, then I'll schedule a time where they would actually bring it to my new home. So that's kind of how that works. And sometimes they get busy, so you want to plan these out too. You got to schedule, when you want to have these things picked up at the certain facilities and things. You can't just call the day before and say, okay, I'm ready, send it, because they're going to have all these other customers that are already lined up ahead of you. So you still got to think ahead, even though it sounds like you get a lot of time, 30 days, but you really got to plan ahead as far as when you're going to have it picked up, when you're going to have it dropped off, different things like that. All right, so now let's get into costs associated, with pods in this scenario. So the estimate that I got, they break it down into 3 payments. The first payment would be $724, and that would be due the day before they drop off the empty container at my current home. With that fee, they provide $10,000 worth of insurance, so that's pretty nice. And then they give you a brand new custom padlock that only you are going to have the key for. So you're the only one that's going to have access to the contents in there. So you're going to get your own nut lock, your own key. Don't lose that key. And, that way they're not going in there. No one's touching your stuff. Once you lock it in there, you're the only one that has access. Then the second payment would be $3,655, which is the most expensive part. That's the transportation fee. That's based on miles. So in this scenario, you're going from Massachusetts down to Orlando, Florida. And with that payment, that would be due, 5 days before the container is shipped. Then you have the third payment. That would be $165. And what you're paying for with that is they're shipping, your pod container from the Orlando storage facility that I got shipped to your new home address. So from the Orlando facility to your home address, and then when you're done unpacking it, that also includes the fee for them to come back and pick up the empty container and bring it back. So that's what the last $165 is for. And we keep talking about 30 days. You only have 30 days. But what happens if you go over the 30 days? That could happen, based on different things that could come up. So, in this quote, in this estimate, if I went over the 30 days, each additional month would be $459 for them to keep it in storage. PODS also does provide, recommended movers if you're looking for full service help. And they could also recommend a company, that can transport your car or your vehicle, to the new location. Also in this situation, I did receive a second quote because, remember, it was 1,500 square feet and the 16-foot pod only holds 1,200 square feet. So they recommended, I might need that additional 7-foot pod. So here's the prices and the breakdown, if I had to add that additional pod. Once I'm packing and I realize, I don't have enough room. I need the 7-foot pod. So it didn't even need to be ordered initially. It's something I can add on once I'm already in the process. And the payment structure would be set up, exactly like the first pod. So you have the first payment that would be due. It would be $514. Same thing. It's paying for the delivery, the $10,000 of insurance that you're going to get, the padlock that you're going to get on this one. Then you have the second payment, which that's the big payment, the transportation payment. For the 7-foot pod that's added additionally, it would be $2,433. And that's again going from the Boston facility to the Orlando facility. Then you have the third payment, which is exactly the same, so it must just be their set rate. It's $165, and that would be the shipment from the Orlando facility to the new home address, and then picking up the empty pod at the end. And just keep in mind that this is a discounted rate for the second pod because it's all part of the same transaction, so to speak. So the second pod will be a little slightly discounted, but also keep in mind with the second pod is it has its own 30-day window. So if you're filling up the 16-foot pod and then a week later, now you decide, I need that 7-foot pod. Well, that 30-day window for the 7-foot pod starts when that one gets delivered. So that's the smarter way to do it. So you're not trying to load up 2 pods at once and then unload them to get. No, you should, stagger it a little bit so you have time to load and unload. All right, so now let's jump back to U-Haul for a minute. So, we want to compare apples to apples here. So the 16-foot pod was, what was it? $4,545. So that's 16 feet. So the most comparable U-Haul truck would be 15 feet. So what would a 15-foot U-Haul truck cost? So that would only cost $3,137 plus their taxes. So if everything fits into those trucks, that would be great. But in this scenario, 1,500 square foot house, 3 to 4 bedrooms, they say that their 15-foot truck is only good for 1 to 2 bedrooms. So what you'll probably need in reality, if this was a real move, is you would need that 16-foot pod and that 7-foot pod, and then you would probably, which would be 23 feet, and then to compare it with the U-Haul truck, you would probably get the 26-foot truck. So let's go over those numbers. So if you needed both the 16-foot and the 7-foot pod containers, the combined price with the discount of having both in the same transaction would be $7,657. Well, that's the total price, and that's 23 feet combined. So compare that to the U-Haul truck, the most comparable, the 26-footer, that was going to be about $5,000. So you can see the difference with U-Haul, how it's cheaper, and that's with the taxes too with that price. So, there's a significant savings with U-Haul, but also keep in mind the other things that go with it that we talked about, like, you only got the U-Haul truck for 5 days, so you're going to be hurrying up, trying to load that thing up so you can get to where you got to go. You got to drive this big box truck, across the country or wherever you're going, figure out where to park and different things like that. Pay for lodging, pay for gas. Whereas pods is just going to pick it up and just going to take it for you, but you're paying additional money for it, so maybe that's not worth it to you. So just got to weigh all the options. Then I called DN Van Lines, because I hear the commercials all the time. I did some research. I read some great customer testimonials, and also they have a Jacksonville location. So, it's a great company to keep in mind if you're doing this exact move from Massachusetts to Florida, because they have facilities, in both areas. I use the same scenario, 1,500 square foot home, 3 bedrooms, bringing all the appliances, washer, dryer, fridge, stove, some tools, and we're moving from Massachusetts to Orlando, Florida. So they have 2 different service options available, and they even break them down separately on the estimate. So if you want to have in-home services where they help you pack inside your home, that's considered day 1, and then the pickup will be considered day 2. So let's dive into day 1. So day 1, is probably going to be the day before the move, and they're going to come to your home and they're going to assist you in packing, everything inside your home that you need help packing with. They're going to prep everything. They're going to get everything ready for the move. They're going to bring the boxes and the supplies. They're going to bring all that stuff. And what the estimate says that it incorporates is you're going to get 3 men, and they're going to get a rate of $249 an hour. And then the packing in this scenario that I provided with the 1,500 square feet and all that, they said it expected to be 4 to 6 hours for them to come in and pack the home. There's a 3-hour minimum labor charge, and after the 3 hours, you're charged every 15 minutes. So, you're not going to get charged, if they're only there a few minutes of the hour, you're not going to get charged that whole hour. It's in 15-minute increments after the minimum 3 hours. So that's good. So you're only going to pay for, pretty much the time that they're actually there packing. And they do add on a fixed rate of travel time, and that's just the time that it takes the crew to commute, from their facility to your home and back again afterwards. So in this scenario of where I live, based on where the facility is, they tacked on 1 hour to my rate. So for them to give the estimate, they said 4 to 6 hours. So they estimated in the middle, they said 5 hours. They anticipated $400 worth of supplies. The cardboard boxes, the different things like that, the tape, everything they're going to need. So when they added all that together, the 5 hours of labor, the $400 worth of supplies, it came to $1,894 for them to come in, with the information I gave them that's in my home, what they estimate it's going to take for those guys to come in, pack my home up. So $1,894. I don't have to do the packing. They're going to come in and do the packing. And then the second part of the estimate was the day 2 quote. And the day 2 quote is when they come to load the truck and pick up the truck and transport it. So this quote would be the same if I packed everything myself and they just came and picked it up, or if I had this other original quote, the day before, where I had these people come out and help. So this quote would be the same regardless in those two situations for day 2. So the day 2 quote is $9,700. So if you add that on to, if you do both services, you want them to come pack everything, take it, and just take everything, and you don't have to do all this stuff, you're looking at $11,594. That's their combined quote. So just to know what to expect when they arrive, they could come with one 26-foot truck, 2 26-foot trucks. They could come with a 53-foot truck. But that's no additional fees. That's just, that's all in the logistics on their end. That's just for you to know what to expect, when they arrive to come get your stuff. And how long is it going to take? It's going to take about 2 to 3 business days. They say to go from Massachusetts to Orlando. One benefit about this company too is that they do have a Jacksonville facility. So if you need more than 2 or 3 business days, if you're not quite ready yet, they can't hold it for you down in Jacksonville. But that would be additional fees. But they did mention that just because of the Massachusetts to Florida transport. And just keep in mind, there's other van line companies out there. I just chose DN Van Lines to look up because, I had heard about them. They're a reputable company. They had great customer reviews, customers that I had used other services in the past, but they swear by, this company, and sometimes it's true. Sometimes, you get what you pay for. So you pay a little more with this company, maybe you get a little bit better service. I don't know. I just got the estimate. I've never used them before. Like I said, there's a lot of other companies out there. You might get very different prices, if you start calling around. If you're into the van lines and you're like, hey, this is kind of how I want to go, call around. Check out the different ones, because you might get a lot lower price than the price that I got. And that could be a great company too. So just do all your research. You got UHAUL, you got PODS, you got DN Van Lines, you got other van lines. There's a bunch of options out there. I only went over 3 options. There's other options, trust me. Just do your research, see what's going to fit you. Because delivery time, or how long you have to take the pack, if you want to do some of it yourself, maybe you don't want to do any of it, whatever, every time you move, sometimes you're just in a different mentality. Sometimes you're like a go-getter. You're going to get your friends and buy some beers and pizza and let's go move. Sometimes you don't even want to be bothered with it. Just, hey, you guys take care of it. I'll pay the extra money. So, it all kind of depends on what your mentality is, what you're looking for at this particular move in this situation. And just seeing what each company has to offer and each way you go about it. Each one has its bonuses, its pluses, its minuses. So just look at each option. So one thing that should stand out to you after hearing all these numbers is the importance of, way back when I said the initial step of decluttering your home. because decluttering your home, could potentially save you thousands of dollars depending on what route you're going to take. You're not paying people to move these things for you, and you're not spending time or having to get a bigger truck because you have more stuff. Just think about what you have. Question everything you have. Especially the bigger items. If that washing machine is 10 years old, I mean, how much longer does it have left? Do you really want to move that thing or spend all the money on maybe a couch you've had it for a long time? I'm not saying you should just dump everything and get all new stuff, but you want to think about that stuff. And the small stuff can actually turn into big stuff, very, very quickly. As just by having your own personal things, how fast your house can fill up with stuff, just Christmas gifts and just different things you get over the years. So just declutter the house, save you a lot of money. Then after you decide, the route you're going to take with the big aspect of your move, now you want to research on the things that you're going to do as part of the process. If you're going to pack up the boxes yourself, one good tip I have for you is just go on YouTube and just look up these different moving companies, and they have so many videos that they put out, and they teach you pretty much how to pack. They teach you how to pack the fragile stuff, the clothes, how to wrap the furniture. So these videos are very helpful, and it's a video. So they're actually showing you, they'll be packing up a box themselves and just showing you. So you get that visual, and sometimes it's easier to learn. That's how I am a lot of the times. When I see it, now I got it. Now I see exactly what you got to do. One great tip also is to use like color coding tape. So, you can go by the different rooms. So for example, you can say everything in the living room you're going to use blue tape for. And then everything that goes in the kitchen, you use red tape. And then if you're going to have anybody helping you, like movers or family members or friends, or even for yourself, you can draw a little map of the new home, a little layout where each room is. And you can have the color codes right on the map. And then also, put something of that color in the room, whether it's just, a piece of tape on the wall or just something in that room. So, you put red in the kitchen. So when people see the red tape, even if they don't even know that's the kitchen. I mean, well, kitchen's a bad example because you're going to know what the kitchen is. But for example, bedroom number 1, bedroom number 2, whatever it is. So when you see green or orange, you're going to know these boxes go in this room. And then no matter how you're moving, whether you're using movers, whether you're using family, friends, there's certain items that you want to identify that you want to personally transport yourself. Especially your valuables like your jewelry, if you have personal information on documents, your birth certificates, things like that, your checkbook, different things like that. If you have extra checks, you want to make sure that you get those, smaller items, and you make sure that no matter what's going on, those stay with you. You take those in your car. You like to think you can trust everybody, but, you never know. You could have the most reputable movers, trustworthy friends, but you just don't know. Sometimes, even people that you do feel like could be going through something, and maybe they're going to do something, that they wouldn't normally do. So just keep that stuff safe, keep it protected, identify what those things are, keep those in a safe location, and make sure that you're responsible. You bring them in your own personal vehicle. You make sure they go from point A to point B under your supervision. And then some things you have to think about is, who's the new company going to be for, your internet or your cable, and start researching the little things like that. Because, like I know just for me personally, when I was looking into moving to Florida years ago and I was looking at the different companies, I never even heard of those cable companies. I wasn't just like, I'm so used to the names up here, you don't even think that those aren't the names down there. So you got to see which one's going to be in your area. You got to contact them. You got to set up that service, different things like that. And that stuff just takes time. It's little things like that, but it's going to add up. You got to find out, how and where to return your existing equipment. You got to think about changing your address. Another thing you might want to think about is, if you can, if there's already somebody there, think about leaving your forwarding address, with the new owner that just bought your home, or, if you're moving out of an apartment or something and the new tenant that's moving in, if somehow you cross paths, you might want to leave your forwarding information with them, because you never know. Even though you change your address, your mailing address at the post office, it doesn't mean everything's just going to go to you directly. Sometimes things slip through the cracks and different things. So you don't want to miss out if something important does get delivered to your old address, that at least maybe they can communicate with you and they can forward it to you. They'll know where to forward it to. Different things like that. And also, you want to make sure that you alert, the electric company, the water company, that you moved. Because, you want to give them the date, because you don't want to be getting a bill for utilities that were used after you left the premises. So just make sure you're on the same page with that. And there's checklists for all these things. If you just Google moving companies, not just YouTube, but like go on Google, go to their websites. A lot of them have checklists. All these moving companies, they'll have the checklist. Print it out, go through it, because this can be stressful. I mean, there's a lot of stuff you got to think about with moving. I mean, not only do you got to pack up all your stuff, and figure out what you don't want anymore, and physically bring it to a new location. I mean, in that aspect, it can be exciting to move because it's exciting to set up your new stuff and have it look a different way and just have a different feel to it. That part's exciting, but there's a lot of the stressful stuff here. All these other things you got to think about besides physically moving. That you got to make sure you get everything set up with your new address, and if you're moving to a new state, you got to get a new license. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. So print out those checklists. They'll be super useful to you. And also, thank you for watching. I hope you found this stuff informative. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. Send me a like. That just motivates me more to just keep putting out more content like this. So thank you for watching, and just have a great day, and good luck if you do decide to relocate to Florida. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can point you in the right direction. People that have moved there before, maybe you have different questions, maybe I've heard before and I know the answers to, or I can get you in the right direction. So thanks again for watching. Have a great day. Hit the subscribe if you liked it. Hit that bell notification. Hit the like. I appreciate all those things. It lets me know people are watching these, and I'll continue to put out more videos and future content.